Good afternoon or morning, depending where you're at. Today is April 9th, 2015. Chad, I always have to ask you, is this our 20th Mastermind call? Is that correct?
I think it is, yes.
That means we are officially at this for 5 months now, guys. It seems like, some regards it seems like yesterday, and in other regards it seems like it's been years. But I appreciate all you showing up today, and so many of you were on time. I usually like to start with just a couple little housekeeping items. And forgive me, this is a repeat from last week, but it's one thing that keeps happening, and it's I guess it's a good problem. Every week, I had 3 agents this week that contacted me and said, when am I going to get my leads? And I checked and said, you got them 2 weeks ago. If you haven't done it, guys, the nature of what we send you, because it's a pretty substantial data file, we're going to tend to get spammed or going to your junk mail if you don't whitelist us. Does anybody in the call not know how to whitelist? Does everybody know how to do that?
I do not.
Well, just the simplest way, guys, if you just put in Chad, just go to your address book. If you're using Gmail, go to Gmail contacts or anything else, Outlook contacts, and put in either Chad Corbett or Jim Sullivan. And for the email, put info@alltheleads.com. And what that does, that basically tells your email provider that, hey, I know and trust this address, this domain address. So add a contact, put whatever name, Jim or Chad or whoever, and then info@alltheleads.com.
Yeah, the good news is people are anxious to get their leads. It's kind of like you order something online and then check the mailbox every day, and we just hate it that you get them and they sit there and you're not doing anything with them for days or weeks. So the other thing I mentioned
and also, guys, if you just another way to do that, if any time you're in doubt, if you haven't seen an email from us and you think you should have leads, go to alltheleads.com, log into the members area, and there's a historical file, section where you can see everything you've ever gotten. So whether it's this month's leads or 6 months ago, you can always go in there and download those.
Perfect. And two other things I wanted to share with you guys real quick before we get started with the questions. There's 2 Facebook groups that I'm going to recommend to you. Some of you are already members. One of them is What Should I Spend My Money On? Great site. There's 8,900 members. It's just good ideas what works and what doesn't work. The biggest complaints I've seen in there lately, Zillow is it's ridiculous. They're raising people's prices from $100 to $1,000 a month, and that's mostly for stale buyer leads. And if any of you join that website, the Facebook, not website, the Facebook group, What Should I Spend My Money On? If you wouldn't mind, kind of a shameless plug for you, you're not allowed to pitch anything that you own or, are a founder of on there. So if any of you do join that website, if you'd say something nice about it, we appreciate it. Say something nice about us, we would appreciate it. The other site that is actually featuring us right now that I just became aware of, it's really, really good. It's called Lead Gen Scripts and Objections. It's a guy named Aaron. He's got about almost 11,000 members. If you tell him we recommended you, he'll automatically let you in there. And it's very, very. Chad, would you summarize what the site does? It's just agents all over the country sharing objection handling techniques, what works for them, correct?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. It's kind of like just a large mastermind community. So it's where people go to get stuck because I think those things only exist because brokers don't do a great job of supporting agents. So it's a great resource for people who are active in business.
He's been a great friend of ours. As a matter of fact, he did a post this morning kind of teasing us, and he said, what we offer is not sexy, it's just awesome. And I asked him if he was talking about me or our service because it actually applies to both of us. So those are some places that you guys can get additional info, not necessarily about probate, but there's good info on both of those sites. Before I turned on the recording, well, first of all, Carrie, I'm going to put you off one more minute. There's about 30, almost 40 of us on the call so far. Does anybody have any wins they want to share with the group this week? Anything that's worked particularly well for any of you?
This is Tami in Boise. I was just going to say, as far as following up to my call a couple weeks ago, is that not to get discouraged when you're not getting responses for a little bit, because I've left 2 rounds of voicemails, and we sent out our second voice cast and our second letter for our first batch. And after we got the second letter sent out, we got 2 more calls on Tuesday, right after they received the letter and then our second voice cast. And we have 2 more that we're going to be listing within the next probably week.
And thank you, Tami. And Tami, Tami's the one I brag about. Tami, how long have you been in the business?
3 months.
So she's a 90-day veteran of real estate. And your first broadcast, your first mailing and voice cast, how many appointments and how many deals did you get?
So there's a couple that we're still wrapping up, but we have 4 people, 5 properties. One of them we are actually just finishing. The estate sale is going to be this Saturday, so we connected them with clean out crews and estate sales and all of that, which is my number 1 recommendation, is having that team in place, because that's why we were able to capture so many. However, we have the listing paperwork for it. It doesn't go onto the market until the 17th, but I think we have it sold already, because the other thing that we do here is we circle prospect. So when we know that we have listing paperwork, we call the entire neighborhood and let them know that the house is coming onto the market soon. So we've already had 5 showings, and we haven't even had the estate sale yet.
You basically, in 2 months, you've gotten 7 deals, 7 listings
Correct.
total, or yeah.
Yes.
And Tami, you're in a booming metropolis, right? What city are you located in?
We are in Boise, and our market is crazy. Our inventory is so low, and it's only because the houses are selling so quickly that they're selling before they're really considered part of the inventory. So but we do a lot of circle prospecting as far as in our office. We're selling homes before they ever go live on the MLS a lot of the time right now. But our market in general is just very, very strong. So homes are selling quickly. I'm part of an amazing team already. And so I actually got to walk into a position creating the ISA position within this existing team. And that's some of the tools that we're doing to help. We're just basically capturing the market by doing the circle prospecting and reaching out to leads like this that nobody else is calling.
Well, that's great.
Tami, I love when you come on these calls. I'm doing math in my head. So last time it was like $500 spent and $50,000 in GCI. So I'm assuming with another round of mail and a couple rounds of calls, you're probably around $700 spent for 70,000 GCI. Is that about right?
Right.
So
yeah, I
challenge anyone to find like an ROI like that and something with such a quick cash conversion cycle. In 60 days, $70,000 in GCI for $700. Like, that's phenomenal. You guys are kicking butt. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. This particular property, too, just to give people an idea, our average price in this market is about $205. But this particular property that we actually connected, it's worth doing the extra work to connect people to estate sales and clean out crews and really go the extra mile. This home, it's a $400,000 home, so it's twice our market average. So, which is amazing. And quite a few of our homes, we have a couple that are only in the $100,000 to $150,000 price range, but we have several of them that are $300,000 and up that we are looking at helping.
Well, that's fantastic. Did anybody have any questions for Tami? Tami kind of co-hosts these calls when you're able to come on. We appreciate it. We really do. Guys, thank you so much, Tami, as always. Carrie, right before I turned on the recording, you were asking a question about letters. Would you repeat that?
I think it might have been Matt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who was it right before the call started that was asking about the type of letters on our website? I think she has.
Anyways, regardless, I think it may have been seen. So the question that was asked before the recording started was related to the letters that are on the back end of the website, and I think she's talking about, as they're labeled, probate letter 1, 2, and 3. Those letters open the door from a buyer's agent with an investor cash buyer who's looking to buy properties in that market, and then they subtly say, oh, by the way, we have a strong selling system for selling homes conventionally, so we can leave that offer on the table and try to get top dollar for you if that's better suited for you. And through that series of letters, it lays out a set of options. And just like Tami talked about, getting your team is vital. Getting your estate sale companies and attorneys and cash investors, contractors, things like that. So those letters, that sequence of 3, through the copy, lays out those options. There is a letter, and whoever asked the question, go into the Facebook group, All the Leads Mastermind, and under Files at the top, you'll see a menu. And on the right of that menu, there's a tab for Files. In there, you have all the letters that we've used. There's one called Probate Options Letter, and that letter is a condensed version of the other 3. It's formatted a little differently, very similar information. So you've got essentially bullet points, and it's worth mentioning that's the letter that Tami is sending in her market that has gotten 7 listings and only 2 touches of the sequence. They're only 2/3 of the way through their campaign. And a lot of people have had great success just sending that probate options letter 3 times. And usually we find that, people move at different stages, so they will get listings on each touch in the sequence. If you don't have a cash investor, that's something that a lot of realtors are intimidated by because they haven't made that a pillar in their business. And I'm here to say you need to go do it. Not worry about not having it. Just say, I'm going to have a book of cash buyers. And the best way that I know to do that, if you're well networked in your community and you know senior agents that might not mind sharing that information, you can always ask those senior agents. If you don't have anyone willing to share cash buyers and if they're protective of their book, one of the best ways is go to the courthouse or go to an absolute auction. During a trustee sale, everyone there has to have cash to play. And it might be an employee of the decision maker who, the end buyer. It might be his acquisitions guy, but he can deliver the business card to that guy. So if you go to an auction, depending on where your market is, you're probably going to find between 3 and 300 cash buyers on any given day that there's a trustee sale. If you watch the commercial real estate sites in your market and look for absolute auctions on single-family homes, that's also a good place. You can usually find, I'd say probably a minimum of 20 cash investors will show up to those absolute auctions. So go there, network, introduce yourself, get those people in your database. Not only can you use them for probate, in a down market cycle, you'll still be profitable when every other realtor's trying to figure out what the hell to do to make a living.
And Chad, we shared before that if you're in a major metropolitan area, go to nationalria.com, Real Estate Investors Association. There's not a major city in the country that doesn't have an investor group, and call the President's Association and ask them for a few names. But that's pretty easy, and it's an option, guys. It's an option that most of the sellers aren't going to take, but it gets your foot in the door, and it is an option. I think we shared on prior calls. Our experience is the more heirs there are, the more likely they're going to want the quick sale option, because even at a lower price, it's less per person. If a house just has 1 or 2 or 3 heirs, generally they're going to want, and it's been our experience, I think most of you will probably agree, they don't necessarily, even if they don't want a quick sale, they don't necessarily want top dollar, but they want to get fairly close to market value. They're generally not looking to get full value. They want a fairly quick sale, but they're willing to list it a little bit below market. And I would say that it's 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 15, maybe 1 out of 20 that it really have to have a cash offer. There's some urgency. Maybe there's a mortgage that's gone into foreclosure. It's a reverse mortgage, something like that. But those are few and far between. So
in Memphis at a title company, you can ask your title company. We pretty much know folks that are cash buyers and good buyers. You can also go to Craigslist and just look for We Buy for Cash.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. We had, Mark, I recommended that a couple of calls ago, and people were running into privacy issues, and maybe that was a cop-out. Maybe the title company had maybe it was a false objection, but they wouldn't give the realtor any information because they were worried about privacy policy.
Then you go back the other way. I mean, I know guys that are buying houses. I mean, I'm a buyer myself, and all I got to do is go the other way and say, hey, I'll give your name to one of my buyers and let the buyer call the realtor.
Yeah. Good input. Thanks.
Excellent. Guys, I think this is one of our biggest attendance for a call. There's about 42 of us on the call. Any questions, guys? This is your call. We want to be here to help each other. Any places anybody's getting stuck? Any questions? Any insights? Anything anybody wants to ask or contribute? I'll throw it open to the floor. Don't all talk at once. Anybody?
Well,
no?
Hello?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
My name's Harry Moore. I'm an agent from Washington, D.C., and I'm not part of the program, but I was given the invitation because I'm thinking about joining, and I just wonder if anybody might share, if they've been doing this for, 3 to 6 months or more, what kind of success they've had, just to hear that.
Yep.
We already heard Tami. You know what tends to happen on these calls, Mark? When somebody's brand new, they seem to show up for the first 3 or 4, and then Chad always says they're too busy out there working and taking listings. I think the majority of the group today is relatively new. We don't have David Bryan on here, do we, Chad?
He hasn't shown up since he listed. He got 25 listings and 250 phone calls and disappeared. So I think we know where he is.
Yeah, all I could share my experiences, hey, but it's my company, so, Harry, I think I already did that with you. Is there anybody else on the call that's been doing this for more than a couple months? I think everybody on here is relatively new. Nope. You know what I'll do, Harry? If you want to talk to some people doing it for a while, send me an email. I'll send you some. I'll get their permission first. And I'll send you some contact numbers. Some people you can talk to.
Hey Jim, you've only been doing this a couple of months, right? Didn't this company just start a few months ago?
Yeah, we my partners, including Chad and I, we actually tested this for about 6 months, and then this is our. We actually rolled it out to the public. Well, this is our 20th call, so that would be about 4.5 months.
So 4.5 months, and how long have you had more than 100 people doing it?
Oh, just in the last few weeks. We grew slowly like anything else. When we went on Vulcan 7 is when we kind of caught fire, and the majority of the people are within the last 30 to 60 days.
Right. So part of the benefit is getting in on the ground floor. Before, there's just not been a lot of results to report yet, but the few people that are doing it have had pretty good results.
Yeah, and that's accurate, Donna. I always tell people I think we've had about 110 people sign up. I've actually had 8 people cancel, and all 8 of them admitted that they just ordered the leads and never did anything with them. The typical flavor of the month realtor. I haven't heard anybody yet that's been sending letters and making calls for any period of time that hasn't at least gotten some business. We can't all be Tammys, right? We can't all get. But we probably
yes, we can.
Well, thank you. I like that, Coach Donna. Tell them like if it's possible for her, anybody could do it, right? And by the way, Donna and Mike are very successful real estate coaches, and when they heard about this, they just turned us on to all of their clients, and we really appreciate it. And I think most of our growth in the last week has been thanks to you, Donna.
Well, I heard about it and listened to the recordings of a couple of other people who'd done it successfully, and I'm all about getting in on the ground floor as something that's a new lead generation source. We just don't have those come along very often. So I just told a couple of people about it, honestly, Jim, not very many. And we're anxious to get started. Our leads won't be here for another 2 weeks, but when they get here, we'll be on the call and give a testimonial as well.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate that. Chad, you started to say something?
Yeah, I was going to address Harry's question or his request. And we joke about it, but it is true. People will show up for the first 3 or 4 calls, and then they just go because they're so confident and locked into this that their time's better spent there. So Jim can get you testimonials. I have, because of the 8 people that did cancel over the 6 months that we've done this, I kind of took that as I took accountability for that, and we realized that coaching was a necessity with this because it is a learning curve. It is something new. So that's kind of my role. I work with people across the country, and I think I spent a grand total of maybe 15 minutes with Tami, and she's got 7 listings, so those guys are phenomenal. But what we see, kind of like a minimum results that we see across the markets, whether it's a big metro or even a kind of a secondary or tertiary market. Most people are usually listing about 2 homes per 100 leads that they prospect to if they're working the system. And I'm in Roanoke, Virginia. I'm about 4 hours from you, and that's what I see here. So, if you get 100 leads and you do a round of letters and phone calls, you should be seeing about 2 listings. On the next touch of the sequence, you should see 2 listings on the next touch, because people move through this process at different speeds. Some people make the decision right up front and are very motivated. Some are more sentimental and take some time. Some will take a year. So I've been running the campaign in Roanoke since, when did I start, Jim? It was right when I got back from Canada. So I started here in August or I guess September. August or September we started. And we're listing homes. The last 3 homes that I've listed, the last one, I'll just talk about that one. So just today, last week, I did a round of marketing. Got a phone call from a lady who and I went back all 6 months and did a recorded voice, ringless voicemail. A lady raised her hand who had gotten my letter back in September or October and said, "Hey, I got your letter. I just haven't done anything." And she said, I've got 3 realtors that I've already talked to that are going to list the house, and I don't, you called me, so I'm just calling to see what you want. And she was kind of abrasive. And I said, that's fine. She was in Tennessee. She was out of town. So I said, when will you be back up here? So I made sure to get there face to face. I had the appointment with her and her daughter. The other 3 realtors no longer exist. We were able to provide through providing the options, just like Tami said. She had some very expensive Amish furniture, and we provided an estate sale company that can get her top dollar for that in this market. We actually did bring a cash offer on this one. The home it had a lot of deferred maintenance, and it had 7.2 acres of what's now residential land. But I showed her a way that we could market that property as commercial land, so it went from being a giant mowing liability into an asset, and showed her how through getting it in the hands of the right people, we could get them into to get the zoning variance and get it sold as a commercial asset. Today, I just uploaded the listing and marked it pending. We have a cash deal with a 14-day closing. So that was from 4 or 5 months back. So this is something that the longer you do it, the more business you'll have, because people move through it in different stages. And Tami, her results aren't typical. I wish everybody had those testimonials, and I hope we get to that point. I really do. But you should expect, your cash conversion cycle should be inside of 90 days on your first closing. You should be able to pay for your entire campaign within the first 3 months, and it's just all downhill from there. So hopefully that helps you understand what to expect from
all uphill from there, hopefully. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, all uphill.
In my own experience, the time I've been doing it, I've taken 14 listings, flipped 2 properties, and I don't do a very good job, guys. I send out 1 letter and I do 1 automated voice cast. I've got 3 other businesses that I'm running. One thing I will share with you that I really agree. One thing Chad always stresses is have your why in place. Have a reason that you're doing this, and I mean really come from a point of helping the people. Obviously you want the commissions, but you got to have a real strong why of why you're trying to help them. I'll just tell you one real quick war story. I had a guy down in Miami Springs, about 40 miles from me, called me. He had inherited 4 properties. One of them in Miami he had already sold. He had 2 vacant lots in Ocala, and he had a commercial property in Virginia, all part of this one estate. And it just occurred to me, like, I'm 40 miles away. I've never sold anything down there. I don't really want to be an active realtor anymore. How can I help this guy? So I introduced him to an agent in Ocala. They were $10,000 lots. I didn't take a referral. Introduced him to a guy who listed his property. I had him call Chad for the property in Virginia. I sent him a CMA, and I just followed up a couple times, and he called me out of the blue and said he was going to list with a Spanish-speaking agent down there. But he said, all you've done is just help me, and you haven't asked for anything. He said, we want you to come down. He made a comment, before you come down, I want you to know you're stuck with me. And Donna, you'll appreciate it. I think that's the first time in 40 years in this business somebody actually told me before I was going down there that I had to take the listing. You always go expecting to get it. But the really nice thing with most of these, I've only been on 2 listing appointments. That was one of them. The others, it's a phone conversation, and I think it varies per market. Chad, in your market, you said you've had a few people that said they talked to their realtors. I can't ever remember that happening here because it seems like Florida's where people come to die, and the heirs are scattered all over the country. It's very, very, very rare that I'm not the only one contacting them. What are the other agents? What are some of you other guys hearing? I mean, are you, Tami, the ones you went on, did you have any competition, or was it just you?
No, the only ones that we've ran into, we have about 3 that responded that have nothing to do with the listings that we got, that they had already sold before they got our letter. However, it was because they had friends or family that were already agents. So they had already made arrangements before their family member had passed away, so the home sold before it ever went to probate. So other than that, we've had no competition. We have nobody else that's calling the people that we're in discussion with right now.
Yeah, and that's the only competition. The only competition I've ever seen is friends and family and Betty Lou from church. And
right.
it's not hard. It's not hard to shine, and because typically those are your average agent doing 8 deals a year, and it's really easy to differentiate yourself. And like I said, they just forget that they even mentioned that. And I've had a couple guys that are like, well, I got to go break the news to her that I think you're the right guy. So it's definitely different than anything else we do for seller business.
Hey guys, I appreciate it. We try to keep these calls right to 30 minutes, and we're there right now. Does anybody else have anything really pressing? Any questions you need answered this week? All right. Well, Donna, I like your comment. Let's have 50 Tamis on these calls. In about 6 months. I really appreciate you guys all showing up today and contributing. You know where to reach Chad and I if you have any questions, and get out there, take some action, and have a good story to tell us next week. Thanks for coming
Jim, and
today,
thanks,
guys.
Tami.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.